Alright, time to be honest. Before just recently tackling this game, I had never played a single game in the Jak franchise. I just couldn't understand how yet another collectathon platformer was supposed to be good. Well, I finally caved and went back to the 2001 original. But just how was it? The story. Jak and Daxter are two friends who like to screw around and get into trouble. Jak is your everyday pure and mute video game hero, and Daxter is your moody comedy relief. One day while messing around in a land they were warned not to go to, Daxter accidentally falls into a pit of what I'm guessing is that purple stuff in those old Sunny D commercials. He's turned into a weasel, I guess, and so begins our hero's journey into finding a way to turn Daxter back and more than likely save the world in the process as well. At very first glance while playing Jak, I kind of considered the game to be a pretty generic platformer. You move around, travel to new areas, and instead of collecting stars like in Super Mario 64, you collect power cells. The game even has its own version of the red coins, where if you ass stomp on 6 of these red treasure chests, hey, there's another power cell. But anyway, while on one hand the game felt like it was generic, it really wasn't. Generic platforming video games usually end up being trash based off of Disney movies. Instead, this was an extremely solid execution of a pre-built concept of what the collecting platforming video games should be, while still including a few unique ideas here and there just for fun. Jak makes a stride in attempting to perfect an art. Like I said, solid execution. The controls function perfectly. Jak is a joy to maneuver around, jumping and double jumping as you fling him all over the place. The character's momentum feels great, and not once did I ever consider it to be off. The camera controls also sit at just the right spot to give a great view of everything. The execution also feels solid in terms of aesthetics. All of the initial open world environments feel friendly and alive. The design is spot on. When later environments have things getting more serious, the tone changes to more moody and dangerous. The variety works perfectly and keeps the game from getting boring between areas. Another thing I subtly appreciate about this game was that all of the areas and stages are connected with no screen transitions. With the spectacular draw distance considering the hardware, you can sometimes see one level way off in the distance while standing in another. It's pretty damn cool. Here's another thing I liked, the bike. One stage has you strapped entirely to the fishy crotch rocket, and then there's a few special racing stages as well. It is a great addition to the variety, and despite being sort of a mini-game portion of the experience, the controls still work wonderfully. Jak and Daxter is a very good game. In a way, the game blew me away for exceeding all of my expectations, although then in another, while I was indeed having constant good fun, I was never, well, having an absolute all-out blast. Even placing why this is kind of difficult. As with many collecting games, it never really feels as if you have that much of a purpose. The story isn't bad, but it's cheesy and pretty much ignorable and never really an issue one way or the other. Daxter's being a jackass, so I'm in no rush to save his furry ass, and apparently I need to save the world as well, but from what? A couple of bumbling idiots, so I'm not too worried. It all feels like just sort of background ideas compared to what I really need to do. Collect random crap in order to satisfy the random goals set by the computer. It's this sort of thing that keeps the adventure from ever feeling totally grand. No real ultimate high purpose. Another very slight problem with Jak and Daxter is that it aims to match the top dogs that are already out there, such as Mario 64, but it isn't really doing anything to fully exceed them. Yes, there's the bike, which I talked about, and that's kind of unique, but there's not much else. The game ultimately feels like very familiar territory. Do you like games where you need to collect random crap in worlds where you need to jump a lot between moving platforms? If so, you really can't go wrong with this one. I am very happy that I finally decided to have a go at this, and the experience is pretty much memorable. I wouldn't consider it perfect, but I would say that it is very good. And if you like these games, you won't be disappointed, so just go check it out. Jak and Daxter, the Precursor legacy for the PlayStation 2 receives an 8 out of 10.